I've had my compassion and my empathy used against me a lot. Um, I think people think that because I'm kind and I'm empathetic that I don't know how to say no. Um, and before in my life, I didn't know how to say no. I would stretch myself and I would empty my cup, giving to others. And I didn't have the ability to ask or say no. So I would just constantly overgive, and drain my cup and struggle. Life put me into an opportunity where I was forced to deal with how I allowed people to treat my compassion and my empathy. I realized that if I kept going the way I was going, I wouldn't survive. I would continually just hit burnout and depression, rinse and repeat, and keep going on the cycle. So, first, I started practicing no with friends that loved me and I knew they loved me. I started practicing communicating the fact that I had an empty cup and asking if I could either reschedule or if it was okay if I just didn't do the thing. And as I kept doing it, I felt guilty and I would even talk the guilt out with my friend. I'd be like, I'm feeling a little guilty to ask this, but I know that you're okay with it. But is it okay if I reschedule? And then my friend would be like, of course, it's okay. And I'm so proud of you for asking. And they were also practicing saying no and practicing having boundaries. Boundaries are hard, but you need to have boundaries. And people who love you should respect your boundaries. If you make an ask and if you say that, when you say this thing, I feel, and if that person says too bad, like I had a situation where I was with a person who used to grab my love handles all the time, and it made me feel insecure. I didn't like it. So one day I told them, I said, hey, like when you grab my love handles, it brings up feelings of insecurities on my body. I don't like my love handles. And at the time, the person I was with had zero respect for boundaries. And he said, well, I like doing it, so I'm going to continue doing it. And in that relationship is where I learned I had to walk away if my boundaries aren't being respected. And I had to walk away from someone I truly loved, but I kept giving them opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and they weren't willing to do anything. And we stay because we're scared and because we love, but we deserve love too. So instead of asking like yourself, why don't they like me? Ask yourself, why do I like them? Is it just attachment? Is it the fear of being alone? Is it comfort? There's a lot of answers in that question. And for myself, I was afraid. I was already really alone. I didn't have a lot of supports in life, and I was afraid, and that fear kept me stuck. So I started practicing no's and started putting myself into the equation. Like, I matter. I can't give from an empty cup, and I want to give to everybody. So I've got to make sure that I have a full cup all the time. The only way to have a full cup is to give yourself what you need. And to give yourself what you need, you have to go within and you have to ask yourself, what do I need? What do I enjoy? What fills my cup? For me, time in nature fills my cup. Writing fills my cup. Music fills my cup. There's a lot of things that fill my cup. So I prioritize those things over all my other relationships because I can show up better in all my relationships if I show up with a full cup. I won't have resentment to people for giving, because if I give on an empty cup and I don't receive anything back, well, then now I have expectations attached to something I should be giving for free. Also understanding what your needs are and being able to communicate your needs. Like, I don't know what I need from people. I didn't believe I could have needs from people, so I have to figure out what I have to figure that out. I have to figure out my wants and needs. I was very self-sufficient and forced to be self-sufficient, so I need to find ways to feel more comfortable in connection. But yeah, like empathy and compassion, it'll kill you if you don't limit it. And if you're trying to understand people and giving them grace, like that's fine. You can give people grace and understanding and forgive them for what they've done, but you don't have to keep them in your life. You don't have to keep feeding them your energy. Relationships are reciprocal. And it's okay if someone goes into a season where they can't give. And it's okay if someone stays in a season they can't give. As long as that, like, that person would reciprocate if they could. Because if it's always one-sided, you're not giving yourself respect. You're not respecting your value. And a lot of stuff that I feel impacted me was the way I spoke to myself. I didn't love myself like I loved others. And I think that this is like a common theme with people who are super compassionate and empathetic, is that their needs weren't met when they were younger. So they constantly give people what they want and what they need, as sort of this, like, this is what I expect from people, but they don't say it. So I feel like there's a lot of resentment that happens in people's relationships that have a lot of empathy, because they're leading by example of what they expect without communicating that that's what they expect. So it causes a lot of imbalance, a lot of turmoil, and a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of resentment. So your self-talk is really important. I used to be very, very horrible with myself. I used to say horrible things to myself in order to get things done. I beat myself up all the time. I would call myself horrible things. I don't even want to say the things I used to say, because words are spells, and what you think about yourself, what the focus you put on life, that's what's going to show up in your life more. So if I focus on the fact that I'm struggling and I always struggle, I'm going to continue to struggle. But if I focus on optimism or gratitude, and start being comfortable with the unknown, trying to control things less, that helps a lot. So with the self-talk, correct yourself and apologize to yourself. I had to apologize to myself all the time, and I still catch myself saying horrible things to myself, and I have to stop and say, I'm very sorry, Shannon. That's not true. You're actually strong and trustworthy and resilient and brave. And I correct that narrative right away. If you can learn to love yourself the most, you can give more than you ever expected you could give. So in order to consistently be able to be empathetic and compassionate, you have to have limitations in order to keep your cup full. So yeah, like, work on your self-talk, practice saying no's, ask yourself, what do I like about this relationship? What do I like about this person? Am I taking responsibility or making excuses for people? Are they trying to change their behavior? Do they take what I say seriously, or do they just dismiss it? These are all things that you need to pay attention to, because the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I got stuck in that cycle for a very long time. So you gotta love yourself. Once you love yourself, then you can be selfless. Be selfish until you can be selfless. Just food for thought.